All week, Bradley worked on his list of topics to discuss with Carla. It's not homework, he kept telling himself. In fact, it's the opposite of homework, because if I think of some good topics, then we won't have to talk about homework. He didn't scribble during class. He listened closely to what Mrs. Abel and the other kids said in order to get ideas for his list. He took it with him wherever he went. At recess, he kept his eyes and ears open, constantly on the lookout for a new topic. The other kids were meaner to him than they'd ever been before. They were no longer afraid of him. They called him names. And when he didn't do anything about it, they called him more names. A fourth grade boy who wanted to show off to his friends ran up to him and said, "You're not even human. You're a monster. You're a monster from outer space." The boy ran away, but Bradley didn't chase him. He added 3 new topics to his list: humans, monsters, and outer space. Monday was Halloween. Most of the kids brought costumes, which they were allowed to put on at lunch. Brian, one of Jeff's friends, didn't bring a costume, so he borrowed a black magic marker from Mrs. Abel and colored a circle around one eye. When he came back from lunch, he told everyone he was a Bradley Talkers. While everyone laughed, Bradley busily worked on his list. It covered both sides of 3 sheets of paper: trees that lose their leaves, gold stars, chalk, tape. Are chickens really afraid? Why people laugh? What does it feel like to be shot in the leg? Pencils, pencil sharpeners, accidents, coffee, military school, canes, basketball, friends, enemies, hopscotch, dodgeball, 4 square, 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4, 5 potato, 6 potato, 7 potato, more or less nothing at all. What's it like to be in jail? Good boys, bad boys, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Have you ever been to the White House? Who shot my father? Why did he get away? Peanut butter and jelly, gold stars, black eyes, fighting, girls with big mouths. What's it like inside the girls' bathroom? Saying hello, reflexes. Hate. When will I be able to grow a beard? Things that smell bad. Things you like about yourself. Things you don't like about yourself. Things nobody likes about yourself. Things you don't like about anybody else. Gold stars. Does my head look like a chili bowl? Closets. Hiding places. Dreaming. Bad dreams. I wish I could fly. Kids with glasses you drink from. Why people like some people and hate other people? Breaking things. I wish I was invisible. Cry babies. What happens to you when you grow old? Humans, monsters, outer space. Why is Halloween a holiday? Why is Halloween a holiday? Pirates, princesses, ghosts. What happens when you die? What if you were never born? Can someone else be you? Can you be someone else? If I was someone else, I would make fun of me. Magic markers. He didn't go trick-or-treating that evening, though Ronnie and Bartholomew did. The other animals gave them lots of candy. I'm making a list of topics to talk about with my counselor, he told them. Do you have any ideas? How about rabbits? Suggested Ronnie. That's a good one, said Bradley. He added rabbits to his list. Bears, said Bartholomew. That's good. Claudia burst into his room. Bradley quickly shoved his list under the pillow on his bed. How about what that's going to do to you when he finds out you're flunking? She asked. That's a good topic. What are you talking about? Asked Bradley. The list. What list? Well, I don't know, said Claudia. What are you talking? She slowly wandered toward the bed, then lunged for the pillow. Bradley dived for it, but Claudia beat him to it. She held the list above her head and read it. As she looked at each new page, she cracked up and laughing. What's so funny? He demanded. Your list. What's wrong with it? This isn't the kind of stuff you talk about it with a counselor. How do you know? Chalk? Asked Claudia. What can you say? What can you say about Chuck? A lot, he insisted. Claudia laughed. One potato, two potato. Your counselor's gonna be mad when she sees this. Give it to me. Yes, he answered as if he had asked a question. Yes, what? Yes, your head looked like a chili bowl. She laughed. Shut up. Who shot my father? Read Claudia. How is she gonna know that? Bradley shrugged. Claudia gave him back the list. You wrote good stars 3 times, she said, shaking her head. Bradley grabbed it from her hand and looked at what he had written. That's the stupidest list I've ever seen, said Claudia. Your counselor's not going to want to talk about anything on that list. You don't know her, he replied. She'll talk about anything I want to talk about. She listened to me. She likes me. No, she doesn't, scoffed Claudia. That's just her job. She walked out of his room, laughing. Bradley watched her go. Then he added 2 new topics to his list, sisters and jobs. Tears filled his eyes as he tried to think of another topic. He crossed off 2 of the good stars, then crumpled the list into a ball and threw it in his trash basket. Look out, here comes the monster, screamed the chubby 4th grade boy. It's the monster from outer space. Oh, it's ugly, yelled his skinny friend. Don't let it touch you, warned the girl with pink glasses, or you'll turn into a monster too. Bradley ran at them. They scattered and regrouped like pigeons. He sat down to eat his lunch. It sure is a stupid monster, shouted a 3rd grader. After lunch, Bradley sat at his desk. Last seat, last row. He didn't look at Jeff. He didn't look the other way either, at the chart full of gold stars. And he didn't look straight ahead at Mrs. Abel. He didn't look anywhere. It was time to see Carla again. He took the whole pass from Mrs. Abel and walked out of the classroom. He hated Carla. He didn't want to make the same mistake with her that he had made with Jeff. He realized Claudia was right. Carla didn't like him. That was her job. She was waiting for him outside her door. Hello, Bradley, she said as she held out her hand. It's a pleasure to see you today. I appreciate your coming to see me. He walked past her and sat down at the round table. She sat across from him. She was wearing a long-sleeved white shirt with 2 triangles on it, one red, one blue. Did you make a list of topics to discuss? She asked. No, you're the teacher. So you're the one who has to say what we talk about, not me. That's your job. Well, let me think, said Carla. Are you sure you can't think of anything? He shook his head. I'm surprised. I thought you would have come up with a lot of interesting topics. Well, in that case, we'll have to talk about school. Shall we start with homework? Monsters from outer space. He replied. Monsters from outer space. He repeated. You said I could pick the topic. I want to talk about monsters from outer space. What a wonderful topic, said Carla. The only way to kill them is with a ray gun, said Bradley. Regular guns or even hand grenades and atomic bombs won't kill them. You need a ray gun. He stood up and pretended to shoot a ray gun, making a noise that sounded like a cross between a machine gun and a horse. Carla put her hands up to protect herself. Don't shoot me, she said. You're a monster from outer space. He told her, No, I'm not. I'm a counselor. He stopped firing. Do you believe in monsters from outer space? She shook her head. No, but I do believe there are other types of creatures living in outer space. I just don't believe in monsters. I believe that Earth is just one small planet in a gigantic universe. I think there are billions of other planets with trillions of other kinds of creatures living on them. Some are real stupid and others smarter than you or me. Some are bigger than dinosaurs, others smaller than ants. But out of all those creatures, I don't think there is even one monster. Not even one? No, said Caller. I think everyone has good inside him. Everyone can feel happiness and sadness and loneliness, but sometimes people think someone is a monster, but that's only because that they can see the good that's there inside him. And then a terrible thing happens. They kill him? No, even worse, they call him a monster, and other people start calling him a monster, and everyone treats him like a monster, and then after a while he starts believing it himself. He thinks he's a monster too, so he acts like one, but he still isn't a monster. He still has a lot of good buried deep inside him. But what if he's a real ugly? Asked Bradley. What if he has green skin and only one eye in the middle of his face and 3 arms and 2 hands on each arm and 8 fingers on each hand? Carla laughed. You and I might think that's ugly, she said, but that's just because it's different from what we are used to seeing. On that planet, that might be considered beautiful. You may have just described a handsome movie star. Bradley laughed. On that planet, they probably would think I was ugly, because I don't have green skin and I have 2 eyes. Bradley shook his head. No, they might think I was ugly, but not you. Why, Bradley? Carlos said with astonishment. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me, thank you. He blushed. He hadn't meant it that way. He hadn't meant it the way it came out. I don't want to talk about monsters anymore, he mumbled. Okay, said Caller. I think we had a very good conversation, don't you? You picked an excellent topic. For the rest of the session, he colored. He took a green crayon out of Carler's large box of crayons and tried to draw the creature from outer space that he had described. He was able to draw the 3 arms and 6 hands, but he had trouble fitting 8 fingers onto each hand. He looked up. Carla? Yes, Bradley? Can you see inside monsters? Can you see the good? That's all I see. He returned to his picture. He drew a black eye in the middle of a creature's face. He drew a red heart inside the creature's chest to show all the good that was there. Well, how does a monster stop being a monster? He asked. I mean, if everyone sees only a monster and they keep treating him like a monster, how does he stop being a monster? It isn't easy, Caller said. I think first he has to realize for himself that he isn't a monster. That, I think, is the first step. Until he knows he isn't a monster, how is anybody else supposed to know? How is anybody else supposed to know? Bradley finished coloring and showed his picture to Carla. He is a movie star on his planet, he said. Everyone loves him. He is very handsome, said Carla. You want it? Asked Bradley. I mean, I don't want it anyway, so you can have it. I'd love it, said Carla. Thank you. In fact, I'm gonna hang it on the wall right now. Bradley watched her take it up. He almost told her she wasn't allowed to put holes in the wall. But it changed its mind. It was time for him to go back to class. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, said Carla. I hope you have another wonderful topic for us to discuss. He started to go, then stopped and turned around. Yes, she asked. He put his hands on his hips and stared at her. Put his hands on his hips and stared at her. Did you forget something? He stood and waited. Her eyes suddenly lit up. She held out her hand and said, I enjoyed your visit very much. Thank you for sharing so much with me. He stretched his mouth into a half smile and half frown, then hurried out her office. Here he comes, said Lorraine. Don't be a chicken. Corinne bit her bottom lip. It was after school. The three girls stood across the street and watched Jeff. Maybe we should wait until tomorrow, said Colin. Hey, Jeff, Laurie shouted. No, Colin whispered. Jeff turned. Laurie and Melinda walked toward him. Colin lagged behind. Hello, Jeff, said Laurie. Hello, hi, Jeff, said Melinda. Hello, hi, answered Jeff. Laurie laughed. Come on, Colin, said Melinda, asking. Colin blushed and looked away. Colin has something he wants to ask you, said Laurie. Well, see, okay, well, stammered Colin. Quit bothering me, Jeff said very quietly. We're not bothering you, said Laurie. Colin just wants to ask you. Melinda stopped her. Let Colin ask him, she said. Well, see, okay, she took a breath. I am having my birthday. I don't want her asking me anything, Jeff snapped. Colin turned bright red. And quit saying hello to me, too. You can say hello if you want, said Melinda. It's a free country. I don't want you to sing it to me, said Jeff. Don't worry. Colin exploded. I won't. I will, said Rory. Hello. Shut up, said Jeff. He slammed his book down the sidewalk. Hello, Jeff, said Rory. She laughed at her mistake. Jello. She laughed hysterically. And quit laughing, Jeff shouted. She can laugh, said Colleen. You can't tell her she can't laugh, said Laurie as fast as she could. Shut up, screamed Jeff. You shut up, said Melinda. I'm afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you, Melinda, said Jeff. I'm not afraid of you either, said Melinda. Jeff raised his fist in the air. Melinda did the same. Laurie shrieked with anticipation. Okay, hit me, said Jeff. You hit me first, said Melinda. No, you hit me first, said Jeff. Somebody hit somebody, shouted Laurie. Jeff tapped Melinda's shoulder with his fist. She slugged him in the stomach. As she bent over, she hit him in the nose. Jeff flailed his arms as he tried to defend himself, but Melinda kept punching him in the neck, in the stomach, then in the eye. Jeff fell to the ground. Melinda jumped on top of him, knee first. She sat on his chest and held his arms flat against the ground. Laurie knelt beside them and slapped the ground as she counted. Melinda stood up. Laurie held Melinda's arm high in the air, holding her nose with her other hand. She bellowed, "The winner and still champion of the world, marvelous Melinda." Colleen clapped her hands. She stopped laughing and I'm going to be good, thought Bradley. And then, when everybody see how good I am, they will know I'm not a monster. And Mrs. Abel will give you a gold star, said Ronnie. Bradley was so excited. He didn't realize he was putting on 2 different colored socks, a blue one and a green one. He tied his shoelaces, then went into the bathroom and looked at himself in the mirror. His black eye was almost all gone. It had faded into a light brownish yellowish color. He hurried out to breakfast. His mother made oatmeal for him. I hate hot cereal, he complained. You'll eat what you're served, said his father. This isn't a restaurant. He frowned, not because he had to eat oatmeal, but because he realized he never should have said he hated it. That was something the bad Bradley would say. The good Bradley liked hot, lumpy cereal. He took a big spoonful, brought it to his mouth, and swallowed the globe. Good, he said. But as he withdrew the spoon from his mouth, his elbow bumped his glass of orange juice. Claudia screamed and jumped. Oh, Bradley, said his mother. His father glared at him. It was an accident. He started to say it was an accident, but then remembered Carla didn't believe in accidents. That puzzled him. He wondered why he would want to spill his oranges on purpose. He liked oranges. It was the oatmeal he should have spilled. Are you just gonna sit there, or are you gonna help your mother clean it up? Asked his father. He picked up his napkin to help, but his mother told him to stay out of her way. You'll only make a bigger mess, she said. Silently, he finished eating. As he headed back to his room, Claudia burst out laughing. What's so funny? He demanded. Look at your socks, she laughed. He looked down at his feet, then back at his sister. The laughing. Thank you, Claudia, he said. I appreciate you sharing that with me. She stopped laughing and stared at him. He walked into his room, sat on the edge of his bed, and took off his sneakers. Wow, said Bartholomew. You were so good. I would have punched her face in. I would punch her face in if I was you. He's gonna get a gold star today, said Ronnie. Bradley changed his socks, but once again he was so excited thinking about the gold stars that he didn't pay attention to what he was doing. He took the green sock off his right foot. He took the blue sock off his left foot. He put the green sock on his left foot and the blue sock on his right foot. Then he put his shoes on and left for school, determined to be good. He walked into class and took his seat, last row. He sat up straight with his hands folded on the top of his desk. He tried to hold back his excitement as he glanced at the chart on the wall next to him. Jeff came in and sat down. Last seat, second to last row. Bradley saw him out the corner of his eyes, then turned to get a better look. Jeff had a black eye. What are you staring at? Chuckers. Jeff snarled. Hey, you two look like twins, exclaimed Sean, the girl who sat in front of Jeff. Turn your ugly face around, Jeff snapped. Oh, shut up, Bradley, said Sean, turning around. Bradley looked at the back of Sean's head. She still thinks I'm a monster, he realized. But once I get my gold stars, then she'll know I'm good. For the rest of the morning, he sat at attention with his eyes fixed on Mrs. Abel. He kept wondering if she had noticed how good he was yet. He kept wondering. As he walked outside for recess, he was almost certain there would be a gold star next to his name when he returned. Curtis and Doug, two of Jeff's friends, came out of Mrs. Sharp's class. What's the big idea? Asked Doug. Hitting Jeff when he's not looking, said Curtis. Huh? Said Bradley. Doug pushed in. What's the big idea? Hitting Jeff when he's not looking, said Curtis. pushed him. He stumbled backward into Jeff, who pushed him back the other way. Bradley looked around. He was surrounded. Jeff's our friend, said Robbie. Yeah, said Brian. You hit me when I wasn't looking, said Jeff, and my hands were full of groceries. I didn't want to break the eggs. Chicken checkers, said Dan. There was a space between Andy and Doug. Bradley dashed through it and ran across the playground. Jeff and his friends chased after him. Bradley looked back at them and smashed into a girl standing on one foot. The girl fell onto the hard hopscotch ground and wailed. I'm telling Bradley, said one of her friends. I'm sorry, Bradley said helplessly, then continued running. He ran up to the concrete steps and entered the school building through the auditorium. From there, he walked quickly to the library. What do you want, Bradley? Said Mrs. Wilcott, the librarian. Nothing, he muttered, as he sat down at one of the tables. He leaned his head against his hands, propped up by his elbows. What if Carl is wrong, he worried. What if I really am a monster? I don't want any trouble from you, Bradley, said Mrs. Wilcott. As he walked outside for recess, he was almost certain there would be a gold star next to his name when he returned. Curtis and Doug, two of Jeff's friends, came out of Mrs. Sharp's class. What's the big idea? Asked Doug. Hitting Jeff when he was not looking, said Curtis. Said Bradley. Doug pushed him. He stumbled back. Hitting Jeff when he is not looking. Doug pushed him. He stumbled backward into Jeff, who pushed him back the other way. Bradley looked around. He was surrounded. Jeff's our friend, said Robbie. Yeah, said Brian. You hit me when I wasn't looking, said Jeff, and my hands were full of groceries. I didn't want to break the eggs. Chicken checkers, said Dan. There was a space between Andy and Doug. Bradley dashed through it and ran across the playground. Well, we'll get you at lunch, Chuckers, Robbie whispered as Bradley returned to class. You're late, said Miss Abel. He sat at his desk, last seat, last row, and looked at the chart on the wall next to him. Of course, there was no gold star next to his name. He had already done 3 things wrong. First, he had knocked over a girl and made her cry. Second, he was late getting back to class. And third, and worst of all, his name was Bradley Chalkers. As long as his name was Bradley Chalkers, he'd never get a gold star. They don't give gold stars to monsters. They beat up monsters. He looked around at Jeff, Robbie, Russell, and Brian. He had to concentrate very hard to keep from crying. The worst part wasn't getting beaten up. The worst part was that he knew everyone would love it so much. Imagined. Bradley looked at them and smashed into a girl standing on one foot. The girl fell onto the hard hopscotch ground and wailed. The whole school, the boys, the girls, and even the teachers standing by and cheering as Jeff's gang took turns hitting and kicking him. When the bell rang for lunch, he slowly took his paper sack out of his desk. We'll be waiting for you outside, Jeff said to him. Bradley watched him walk out the door. He walked slowly toward the front of the room, then suddenly dashed out. He walked slowly toward the front of the room, then suddenly dashed out the other room and into the hall. Bradley came back here. When the bell rang for lunch, he slowly took his paper sack out of his desk. "We'll be waiting for you outside," Jeff said to him. Bradley watched him walk out the door. He walked slowly toward the front of the room, then suddenly dashed out the other door and into the hall. "Bradley, come back here," Miss Abel yelled. He kept running. So what if he got in trouble? What difference did it make? He pulled onto the door to the library. It wouldn't budge. The library was closed during lunch. He tried to think of somewhere else he would be safe. There he is, said Doug, stepping out of the auditorium. Bradley turned and ran back the way he had come. He rounded a corner, then stopped and made a quick and desperate decision. He opened the door to the girls' bathroom, closed his eyes, and stepped inside. He opened his eyes. Luckily, the room was empty. He held his breath and listened. Nothing could be worse than being beaten up inside a girls' bathroom. They'd probably stick my head in a girl's toilet, he thought. He waited. He didn't hear anything. He looked around. The floor and the bottom half of the walls were covered with green tile. There were 2 white sinks and a paper towel dispenser. There were 3 toilets and 3 separate stalls. Each stall had a door. It looked very much like the boys' bathroom. Girls' toilets appeared to be the same as boys' toilet. He was disappointed. He couldn't risk going back out into the hall. He leaned against one of the stars, reached into his brown paper sack, and took out his roast beef sandwich. Someone was opening the door. He quickly put the sandwich back in the bag and hopped into a stall, closing the door behind him. He stood on the toilet so his feet couldn't be seen. He listened. He heard a person walk across the tiled floor and then enter the stall next to him. He covered his mouth with his hand as he heard some familiar but very private sounds. At